Welcome to the CoSM Full Moon Ceremony, and thank you all for joining us. Gratitude also to the small group of members and friends joining us on this full moon, and to CoSM staff for making this program happen month after month. Tonight's event is the 252nd consecutive CoSM Full Moon gathering that we've celebrated since the first ceremony that we held in our Brooklyn loft on January 2003 with just a few friends, CoSM's initiating prayer committee. Our intention then was to pray for the personal aspirations of everyone in the group and to pray for the creation of the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors, a visionary arts sanctuary that would serve a greater community. To honor this very unique moment together with you, we consider the number 252 in representing this particular time and place in our shared journey. You can reflect on a personal symbolic meaning of number 252 by adding together the numbers 2 plus 5 plus 2, making the number 9. In numerology, the number 9 symbolizes completion, the finality of one cycle, and a new beginning. Many faiths especially honor the number 9. I like to think about the Baha'i faith. For them, the most important symbol is the 9-pointed star representing the unity of truth and oneness of all religions. There are only 9 continental Baha'i houses of worship in the entire world, and each have 9 sides, 9 entrances, 9 surrounding gardens, 9 verses above the doors and alcoves. Now, in Hinduism, the number 9 is associated with the deity Brahma, the creator, because it is considered complete, perfected, and divine. The final number, 9, is the last number in a cycle of the decimal system, which originated from India as early as 3000 BC. Did you know that the Buddha was believed to have 9 virtues? Being accomplished, being fully awakened, having clear vision and virtuous conduct, being sublime, being the knower of worlds, being the incomparable leader of taming humans, being the teacher of all heavenly and earthly creatures, being enlightened, and being blessed. Now, according to the Christian Bible, there are 9 truths of the Spirit. Those attributes being love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Now, if you dine at a Persian New Year's celebration or at the Jewish Passover Seder, either one, there are 9 traditional foods that are considered essential, plus the fact that human pregnancy lasts 9 months. We all know that. Perhaps a possibility is about to be born in your life and maybe in the future of CoSM. So, Alex, now tell us a little bit about why do we celebrate the full moon at CoSM, and say something to us about your thoughts on the theme of the month, courage.
Great. Thank you, Allyson. Well, the full moon in March is called the worm moon because the ground has begun to thaw and robins start to return and feed on the worms. It's also been called the crow moon because the gathering and cawing of the crows is intense as the spring approaches. The full moon has been a great time for us at CoSM to stay connected with our community over the past 20 years. We've gathered every month to provide an affirmation for creativity as a sacred path and to further the project of building a sanctuary of visionary art to uplift the global community. The full moon is the high tide of the spirit, a luminous friend in the starry heavens. Because of the influence of the lunar cycle on our reproductive systems, the tides, and agricultural seasons, for thousands of years, communities have gathered to honor and celebrate each cycle. Spiritually and symbolically, the circle, or sphere, is the shape of the soul, the most basic geometry of unity and wholeness, of oneness. The full moon is actually a reflecting surface, mirroring the greater light of the sun, just as each of us is a sacred mirror, reflecting the greater light of God. This month's theme is courage, something we all need as we approach uncertain futures. Here are a couple quotes to start our thinking. Modern author Anais Nin wrote, "Life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage." And the Greek philosopher Aristotle said, "You will never do anything in this world without courage. It's the greatest quality of the mind next to honor." Well, what is courage? The origin of the term courage is the Latin word cor, which means heart. To express one's heart was the original definition of courage. Courage is bravery to speak truth and a readiness to face threats, uncertainty, and intimidation. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the willingness to confront the problems that lie ahead of you in spite of the fear. It means to show strength, dignity, and perseverance, even when you feel pain, grief, or face opposition. Courage entails trusting your heart's guidance. Courage means standing up for what's right and working for the benefit of the community. Each day requires us to have courage, many different kinds of courage. We need courage to rise up out of bed and meet the tasks of the day with power and enthusiasm. There are many people today doing cold shock therapy with cold showers and ice baths. Wim Hof, the Iceman, has helped countless people, teaching them how to boost their immune systems and recover from illness. We believe that daily cold showers have helped both Allyson and I become healthier. It takes courage to get into the cold every day, but it has been ultimately empowering. Well, each day has its challenges, and we meet both internal and external resistance. In order to move a large object, we grapple with the heaviness, the gravity of the object. You must put your hands on it, meet the resistance, engage the inertia, and expend energy to move it forward. A difficult task can remind us of Sisyphus, the tragic Greek myth of the Titan cursed to continuously push a boulder up a mountain, only to watch it roll down again and again. The curse was in the futility and repetition. Yet with courage, let's imagine that even Sisyphus could break the spell by finding joy and meaning in his task. Although it may be difficult, one might find a way. Our inner Sisyphus could say, "This is my rock. I'm going to go even faster today," or "Thank you, gods, for giving me this special challenge that distinguishes me from all others." And there we find the smile of Sisyphus when we approach our struggle with courage and find meaning in our task. The first resistance was physical. engaging the inertia of the boulder. The second was inside himself, engaging the gravity of hopelessness. Can I see the gift in my task? Can I mix my will with my courage and faith and find the gift in what I'm doing? Facing our fears, we stop recoiling. We stop running away, allowing what's there in front of us or within us to simply be witnessed. We watch the manifestation of fear and regard it as a teacher. What can be learned from this encounter? By acknowledging that our identity should not be determined by our fear, that we're only witnessing a passing storm, the manifestation of a momentary emotion, we can return to the spaciousness and confidence that's the true nature of our being. We can look at our fears from a new perspective. Gaining courage, we take action. We live our life even though we have fears. For many decades, I've written books and spoken widely about psychedelic mystical experiences and bringing the inspiration of sacramental journeys into my artworks. This was not always a popular thing to do. 30 years ago, if I was speaking to a group, I was often asked by the organizers not to speak of psychedelics, but inevitably it would come up when people from the audience asked me where my imagery came from. Because I have benefited so greatly from the healing visions they can stir in us, I've always been a stand for their careful and spiritual use. Still, anytime a journey is embarked upon, it takes courage to open oneself to the unknown. Sometimes, journeys have been filled with suffering and have required much processing. One might easily visit hell, even on a heavenly trip. I'm not recommending it to anyone because each must make that choice for themselves, and these substances are not for everyone. I'm just acknowledging that it takes courage to go deep into oneself, and that being a bit nervous before launching is normal for most people. One should only approach the holy visionary realm with utmost respect, intention, and courage. An artist must meet and overcome their outer and inner obstacles before any creative task. Every artistic challenge invites you to find a personal, unique approach and put your soul into it. When we do, that is art. Because art demands that we go beyond the familiar. It takes courage to create. Art happens while we're in an elevated state of being, in flow, rising beyond reason, in touch with the higher worlds of spirit, the realm of angels and muses. They're watching us. We can engage our tasks with their guidance and assistance, or feel alone and unsupported. As a vision practice, imagine the uplifting presence of your muse, your creative angel, your genius, your higher self watching over you. A source of encouragement to take your work further, to create more beauty, joy, justice, love, and honor, to do what you can to make the world a better place for yourself and others. Well, we started the full moon ceremonies 20 years ago as a way to gather with community and pray for the manifestation of an enduring chapel of sacred mirrors. Within a few months of our first gathering, there was an offer to build a temporary chapel space in the Chelsea Gallery district of Manhattan. We put all our savings and efforts into building the galleries and offices. It was a risk. But we were lucky, and there was amazing support from the community. For 5 years, from 2004 to 2009, CoSM became a successful event space for psychedelic and visionary culture in the city. We saved enough money during this time to put a down payment on land in upstate New York, a 40-acre retreat center in the scenic Hudson Valley. Just as the temporary exhibition was a risk, there was no guarantee that we would ever be able to build a chapel of sacred mirrors on the land. But we knew that if we didn't try, that it would never happen. Numerous people who pledged to help us actually backed out when they saw the enormity of the task. I think courage is related to faith. A divine inner voice delivered the message that this was the place to manifest the chapel, and we had faith to follow that voice. There were many months when we had no idea how we'd pay the mortgage and repair the septic system or the buildings on the property that were actually in terrible shape. Every month that the bills got paid, it was like a miracle. Some artwork might be sold, or we might have a big turnout for an event. It was kind of terrifying, but Spirit kept coming through. And since we arrived in 2009, Allyson and I have been volunteers, putting everything we have on the line to make CoSM succeed. It's taken the unrelenting efforts of CoSM staff and builders to bring this retreat center to its current state of beauty. CoSM offers hiking trails, a visionary Victorian guest house, a teaching center, offices for operation, and now Entheon, Sanctuary of Visionary Art. Team CoSM looks forward to reopening to the public on the full moon of June 3rd and sharing this uplifting offering with members and visitors from around the world. We look forward to seeing you at a future event at CoSM.
Thank you, Alex. That was so inspiring. I'm inspired. And now we'll introduce and turn the program over to Alexa Spatty, who is our full moon anchor. And we're so happy to see you, Alexa. How are you?
Likewise. Oh, I'm fabulous.
You are fabulous.
So much joy. It's the full moon, high tide of the spirit. Thank you for opening the program for us. That was
You
spending
bet,
it
you
with
bet.
you. And
I
with
love
all of
spending
you.
it with you and everybody tuning in. This has been great. You guys have been doing full moons, like you said, for 20 years, which is remarkable, and it's been a staple of CoSM programming. And since March of 2020, we went fully digital, which was an amazing learning curve of trying to share content to people all over the world and making it easily accessible for people. And it really revolutionized CoSM media. And in December, we started to bring back a real-time, real-life element, still offering some creative interludes, but we got some live visual mixing and some playful banter between the two of us. So tonight's going to be amazing. We're feeling courageous to move forward. Thank you for tuning in and being with us as we work towards the completion of Entheon and the reopening of CoSM and having in-person full moon ceremonies. Again, more about that later. For now, time to blast off into the realms of the unpronounceable. Alex and Allison's most extraordinary visionary adventures were recently featured on Comedy Central's animated series, Tales from the Trip. Let's watch.
Hi, I'm Alex Grey,
I'm Allyson Grey.
and this is the story of how we met God on LSD.
And how it gave us our purpose in life. When I was 19, I read the book Be Here Now by Ram Dass. It was suggested to me that I try taking LSD in a unique way, a way I had not tried before, and that was in my dark, tiny little bedroom by myself. And that was when I saw secret writing wafting through the air, infinite symbols that were ineffable and untranslatable. I remember thinking, this is what people call God, and I had never known God. From then on, I couldn't not know God. I couldn't unknow God.
In 1975, I was 21 years old and a deeply depressed art student. And on the last day of art school, I was saying a prayer to a God I really didn't believe existed to show me a sign that I shouldn't kill myself, basically. Later that afternoon, school was letting out and I was saying goodbye to my art professor on a street corner. And around the corner comes Allyson in a little yellow VW and rolls down her window and invites us to a party that's happening at her place later that night. That night, I had my first LSD journey on her couch. Behind closed eyes, I was going through a pearlescent spiralic tunnel. And I was in the darkest dark, but I was heading toward the light. The light was divine love and wisdom and all the answers to all my questions. God was answering my prayer. I saw that all these shades of gray connected the dark and the light. And I decided to change my name based on that experience because that's what I wanted to do with my art, bring the opposites together. I called you the next day to find out about her experience, and we got together that night. Basically, we've been together ever since. That was 47 years ago.
That's right, we never left. You were the first person that I could really talk to about this sort of God contact because you expressed that to me almost immediately, and I had never told anybody what secret writing was about, and yet I was doing it in my artwork.
I recognized it in your work.
And you knew that it was spiritually and psychedelically related, and you encouraged me to make it the core of my work, one of the main elements of my work, which it has been for all these 47 years.
About a year later, we had moved into a loft together and built a loft, and we took a high-dose LSD journey and basically melted into the universal mind lattice. Our bodies had dissolved into these toroidal fountains and drains of light. We were interconnected with every other being in the universe. It was beyond birth and death, gender and race. It was outside of time.
I like to call it the vast vistas of blowholes and suckholes. We knew that this was the most important subject to make our art about, and it changed our work from that moment on because we were making drawings that were so similar that we realized that we had seen and been in the same place, even though we both knew that the other was there. Alex started to
make a series of paintings based on this whole subject, body, mind, and spirit of an individual.
And it took you, 10 years to do the whole series. A major collector became interested in buying the work, but he also became our friend, and he gave us 2 doses of MDMA.
So we had our first MDMA journey. We both saw a chapel that the sacred mirrors were supposed to be in. We realized we couldn't sell them to this collector, that we had to create a chapel of sacred mirrors to house this spiritual message.
And we, attracted people who want to talk about their sacred stories and their mystical stories and their ecstatic voyages.
So we're very excited. We're getting ready to open, and we hope that people will make a journey up to see the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? Comedy Central, Alex and Allyson. What a cool collabo.
Makes me laugh.
Good.
I don't think that we really comedians per se.
Well,
We are
that's
funny
debatable.
people.
You are hilarious. Definitely in a different life, you're both stand-up comedians for
But
sure.
the animators really,
Yeah.
they made it really cute and funny, and I think that's why it's on Comedy Central and it's so
Mhm.
adorable.
They really did their research too. I mean, how do you feel they represented your work?
I think that they followed the through line, the
Mm.
hit the high points, so to speak, and that brought us here to the chapel.
Yeah.
It was an honor. It was really an honor to go into Times Square and go into a big old studio, and they were very nice coaches, weren't they? Very, very kind. We did it over and over again, and they just plucked out the best parts.
Ugh, it was so awesome. I just am stoked.
Thank you.
I'm like, oh my God, they're on Comedy Central. So cool. So check out brand new episodes of Tales from the Trip when you visit the link in the description of this video. Moving forward, in an effort to lift spirits during the darkest days of the pandemic, a group of 65 friends from across the world, led by funktastic band The Main Squeeze, produced a touching rendition of With a Little Help from My Friends by the Beatles. Share in the groove and sing along to this timeless classic. Let's go.
What would you do if I sang out of tune? Would you stand up and walk out on me? Lend me your ears and I'll sing you a song, and I'll try not to sing out of key. Oh, I can have a little help from my friends. Oh, I can have a little help from my friends. Oh, I'm gonna try a little help from my friends. Oh, yeah. What do I do when my love is away? Does it worry you to be alone? How do I feel at the end of the day? You say because you're on your own. Oh, I can have a little help from my friends. Oh, I can have a little help from my friends. Oh, I'm gonna try a little help from my friends. Do you need anybody? You know I need someone to love, somebody to love. Could it be anybody? Oh, I want somebody to love, somebody to love, to love, to love, to love. I'm gonna get out. Said I'm gonna try my friends. Would you believe in a love at first sight? Yes, I'm certain that it happens all the time. What do you see when you turn off the light? I can't tell you, but I know it's a fire. Oh, I can have a little help from my friends. Oh, I can have
Oh, the main squeeze.
Oh my God,
and
I get really
friends.
choked up when I see that. For all kinds of reasons that I just have to say that when we showed that the first time, it was the beginning of COVID. You had Black Lives Matter. You had marches going down Hollywood Boulevard, the
Intense time.
millions of people,
Yeah.
and it was an intense time.
Yeah.
And it reminded me, it threw me back to the 1969 rendition that Joe Cocker did on the stage at Woodstock when you had the Vietnam War and the civil rights movement and the women's movement, and everybody was so passionate, and to see our friends on there.
Yeah.
And in their little boxes where we all felt like we were all had to stay sequestered in our little boxes, but our friends were out there, and it was dangerous and it was frightening. And we took so much courage, just to get through the pandemic. And I just wanted to thank Karen Charles, who spent 6 years here with us and was out there making that with the main squeeze, and her Smiley, who we love seeing there, and all those incredible musicians. I mean, aren't they stunning?
Oh yeah, it's cool to just. Well, and from an editing perspective, I mean, that was taking all these little videos and turning it into a giant Zoom screen and really like reenacting what a lot of people were doing at the time. I mean, yeah.
Thank you to the Beatles, all of them.
Obviously.
And
yeah.
YouTube for letting us show it.
Yeah, obviously.
There
I
you
mean,
go.
it's just fabulous. Shout out to the main squeeze for riding that wave of love wherever the wind blows, and for reflecting the colors of the soul. Music speaks, creativity speaks. So definitely, again, pop your way into the links in the description of this video to check out the entire Main Squeeze discography and see when they're touring in your city next. Fellas, get back to New York. Much love. We're celebrating tonight, not only because it's the full moon, but we are also celebrating the Jewish holiday Purim.
Oh, that's right. It is. It comes around
Yes.
every March.
It
Full
does.
moon. It is on. It is a full moon in March holiday.
Yeah, and it honors the Book of Esther
Book of Esther. That's right. The story of a hero,
and the
a woman who
miraculous
saved her
events.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it was a very terrible time.
hard time.
I mean, it was a hard time for Jews in those days. They had just destroyed the temple,
yeah.
the second temple. They built a temple. We know what it's like to build a temple. They destroyed it. Those Persians. I love them all. I love them all.
Yeah.
I love them all. That was 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
We forgive.
Yeah.
But still, it was a hard time for them.
Well, and we've been talking about the Purim and celebrating Purim every year. This year, you took the whole Megillah
Oh, I
and adapted it into
Yeah.
poetic.
we have to. Every
stanzas.
Purim, you're supposed to tell the whole Megillah.
Yeah,
And so that's what we did.
and we have
And
some,
I want to thank
yeah.
Perry Kroger for illustrating the entire Purim story with me, writing the poetry, and TJ, of course, deserves a great debt of gratitude for sewing it all together. So
Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Let's watch.
Courage is the ability to engage in an act that is frightening. Facing pain, grief, or discomfort takes a power that is enlightening. A hero is a person who is admired or idealized for their courage. To leap from fear to confidence is a virtue we all encourage. The Hebrew book of Esther is retold each full moon before spring, of a protector who saves her people after wedding the great Persian king. Courage involves a deliberate choice for the sake of a worthy aim. This tale is not of fearlessness, but of heroism and how that became. Told on the full moon in March each year, a Jewish holiday throughout the land, celebrating service to her people by a young woman who took a stand. This annual holy day, called Purim, is remembered and written on a scroll. In Hebrew, it's called a Megillah. On this day, the whole Megillah must be told. The woman's name was Esther, as beautiful as she was courageous. Being Jewish and Persian in 5th century BCE was quite disadvantageous. The story features a villain named Haman, and when his name is heard, you are supposed to boo and stomp like I've said a cursed word. So the second king of Persia, King Ahasuerus was his name, ruled the strongest kingdom, and this monarch had no shame. The king held a huge feast in Shushan, that great nation's capital city. For 187 days, beastly drunkenness was not pretty. The plastered king bragged that his Queen Vashti among women was the most beautiful. He demanded her to dance for all of his guests, and Queen Vashti refused to be dutiful. Vashti was the proud granddaughter of King Nebuchadnezzar the Cruel, who destroyed the Jews' temple in Jerusalem. Vashti was not this king's fool. Her grandfather, Nebuchadnezzar, made captive the whole Jewish population. Chalices and goblets from the temple were used to drink at this banquet's libation. Queen Vashti in a haughty tone, responded, "Am I a servant to this king?" Embarrassed before his noble guest, Ahasuerus decreed the axe to swing. No sooner was Vashti beheaded than the king bellowed his next command. "Go out and find me a new wife, the most radiant beauty in all the land." The king's men went from house to house. Throughout Shushan they inquired, asking to bring out young virgins who were the prettiest and most admired. An elder Jew named Mordecai was guardian to orphan cousin Esther. He proposed that she go meet the king. Seeing opportunity, he pressed her. "Don't be afraid. Go with these men, and don't tell anyone you are a Jew. Almighty may offer a chance to serve your people, and will watch over you." Esther was gentle, with blue eyes, and her dark hair had a fine glow. But Jews in Persia were reviled and oppressed 2,000 years ago. As soon as the king laid eyes on Esther, he chose her to be his new queen. Her kind ways were pleasing and attractive, the loveliest woman he'd ever seen. Esther kept her Jewishness her secret, and Mordecai went to visit each day, waiting by the palace gate for when Esther could briefly slip away. One day, while Mordecai waited, he heard two criminals conniving, a plot to assassinate King Ahasuerus and leave no witnesses surviving. When Esther greeted her old cousin, he shared what he heard by bad guys. "You must tell the king," said Mordecai. For Esther, fear began to arise. "Uninvited, approaching the king is forbidden. I'll tell the king's servants instead." The two assassins were soon found and caught and hanged by the neck until dead. Ahasuerus asked his servant, "My man, who exposed the plot against the king?" "It was Mordecai the Jew, your majesty. The book of remembrances I shall bring." So Mordecai's deed was written down in the important remembrances book. Then the book was set aside, and the matter forgotten without another look. Soon thereafter, King Ahasuerus appointed a grand vizier, a prime minister. He chose Haman, the richest man in the land, whose intentions were selfish and sinister. Haman insisted that all citizens must bow down to him as he passed by them. Hebrew commandments, though, said of such laws that all Jews must refrain and deny them. The Grand Vizier wore an amulet with a graven image, an idol, a vision. Bowing down to an idol was strictly forbidden by Mordecai's Jewish religion. Haman was infuriated and went straight to the king to complain. "One nation," he said, "is different and refuses to comply with your reign. They won't consume our food or wine. Our daughters they refuse to marry. Each seventh day they just won't work at all. Their behavior is uncustomary. They celebrate their own holidays and never observe any of ours own. If you permit me, I will destroy them for you and thus defend your throne." King Ahasuerus gave permission and handed Haman a royal signet ring. allowing the prime minister to make the decree conferring the powers of the king. Content, prime minister left the throne room to choose a day for his decree. Casting lots, like a game of chance, is how Purim's date was selected to be. The Hebrew word Purim means casting lots. It was the day to murder all Jewish people. An announcement was made in every town square and from the top of every steeple. On the day 13th of Adar, all Jews throughout this land, young and old, women and children, may be slaughtered by a citizen's hand. Their money and property will belong to the citizens of this county. Take for yourselves all you can grab. Lost by Jews will be your bounty. When Mordecai heard this news, he ripped and poured ashes on his garments. God called him to display his mourning in a symbolic, grief-stricken performance. Mordecai had to tell Esther in the palace of the evil pronouncement he'd heard. This may be the mission God meant for her. His urgent responsibility was stirred. When Mordecai told Esther, the news made her shake with anger, fear, and dread. She was forbidden to approach the king, and the punishment might be off with her head. Esther was permitted to visit her husband only when her presence was requested. Afraid of the danger, she'd gather courage if Jews would pray and fast, as she suggested. After 3 days of ritual observances, Esther dressed up to look alluring. She approached the king in his throne room, where he looked at her with adoring. "What can I do for you, my exquisite queen? Half my kingdom is yours for the sharing." Esther replied, "You and the vizier are invited to a feast that I will be preparing." The king agreed. The vizier was invited. The event was a splendid affair. At the party, Esther asked the two men to a second banquet in her private lair. The invitation so excited Haman, he departed the palace filled with glee. But when he saw Mordecai not bowing again, he connived to enact his decree. At home to his wife, Zeresh, he complained, "He'll hang before that chosen date. I'm important enough for the queen's private banquet." Haman's joy was mixed with hate. "Do it," his wife Zeresh agreed. "Build those gallows right here on our land. You have the king's royal ring. What he wishes is now your command." So Haman and Zeresh had their servants build gallows, preparing to do the deed. Next opportunity, Mordecai would hang. King's permission was all he would need. That night in the palace, the king could not sleep and called for his remembrances book. It fell open to the story of Mordecai the Jew, whose reward the king had forsook. "What did we do for a man such as this, who saved the life of the king?" The servant said, "Sire, I don't believe we bestowed a reward or anything." That morning, Haman went to the palace, looking forward to an executive session. The remembrances book, still in his lap, It was the king who asked the first question. Haman, my vizier, what shall be done for a man whom the king wishes to honor? Haman thought to himself, he wants to honor me. That Mordecai the Jew is a goner. Let him wear the king's royal robes, said Haman. Place on his head the king's crown. Let a servant lead him on the king's royal horse, crying out as they walk through the town. Say, this is the man whom the king doth honor. That's a wonderful idea indeed. I'll leave it to you, vizier of the people. You'll be the crier who walks the steed. Haman was broken, and after the ordeal, he returned home a bitter dude. But he had to prepare for the queen's private banquet. He had no time to brood. At this intimate feast, the king asked the queen, why invite us to this private affair? What's your desire, dear Esther, my love? And she replied, it's my life I beg you to spare. On the 13th day of Adar, the lives of my people have all been sentenced to death. Your people? Asked the king. What do you mean? Your words take away all my breath. A decree was set forth and announced through the land by your prime minister, Haman. The king was aghast and fled from the room as though he had been attacked by a daemon. Trembling on his knees, Haman fell down to the queen, begging her to spare his life. Gaining composure, the king returned and saw Haman's head in the lap of his wife. Haman begged for mercy, and the king cried out, do you dare attack the queen in my palace? Take him away and hang him today. It was Haman who provided the gallows. Haman was hung on the gallows he'd built for cousin Mordecai's execution. And wise Mordecai was then offered the post of vizier, an honorable substitution. The 13th of Adar, across the kingdom, Jews gathered to give thanks and celebrate. And still today, the holiday of Purim honors courage on this auspicious date.
Give it up for Esther, Allyson, Perry, Tees.
TJ. Thank you. That was an honor. I'm really fulfilled. We have fulfilled our obligation for Purim.
Well, and it ties in really well with the theme of courage. Like she
yes.
literally would rather put herself
At
lose
risk.
her head
Right.
to save her people.
And how many people have done so, really, in
Yeah.
history? So many people have had courage. But that makes me want to ask you, Alexa. You're in, in the 20-something category. I mean,
lass, yeah.
when have you had to confront courage in your life and met the task?
Well, there's this great quote by, I think his name is Jeremy Goldberg, and he says, courage is knowing it might hurt and doing it anyway, and stupidity is the same, and that's why life is hard. So, I feel like every day I have to be courageous. I mean, doing this right now with you two and being live for people all over the internet takes courage.
Like going from, into COVID and going from many live audiences to, having to learn brand new skills that we did was kind of like formidable.
Yeah. I mean, and you always say, make promises you're unsure how to keep. And one of our promises was to continue doing the full moons because that's what we do as a community.
Right.
And we really needed to step up during at the beginning of 2020 and So, gosh.
January 2003, Alex Stark told us to start full moon ceremonies, and we did, and we haven't missed one since. So that was, a commitment that we made and we kept. But
Yeah.
you also had to move to CoSM, become
Easy.
our graphic designer, and and take on work, brand new things, learn
Oh,
new
yeah.
things. It took a lot of courage to do
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it's. I'll paraphrase Terrence McKenna. You leap into the void, and you land maybe on a feather bed. So, and maybe I feel like you may have actually taken a leap into, when you went skydiving back in the day. And
yes, I was thinking that when I was in my 20s, when we were in our 20s,
Yeah.
we lived in Boston, and we knew that we had to leave. We had been living happily and showing our art there and getting in galleries and getting in museum shows and doing quite well, but then they were going to kick us right out. So what were we going to do? Should we find another place in Boston? It's cushy and nice, and friends were asking, come live over here, come live over here. And no, we chose a much harder path. We decided to move to New York. But in the interim, we also decided, to bolster our courage. What did we decide to do?
Yeah, we decided to go skydiving. I mean, it was a way to, I guess, build courage. We were looking at ways of transcending our fears. And so you had to, in those days, you weren't attached to the back of someone. You had to get out onto the wheel,
wing.
the wheel, and hold onto the wing, and then let go. And so it was truly very cool.
One at a
I loved
time. So
it. It
metal.
was so
One at a
amazing.
time. Alex went out
hardcore.
first, and I went out last because
Oh.
I was like, I wasn't sure I was going to really do it, and I did it, and I'm fine. But
you
it was
landed on a feather bed,
landed
which
on
was
a
the
feather
ground
bed.
in a parachute.
It's like the thrill is before the umbrella opens. Just the free fall is really the most frightening thing, and then suddenly you're dangling there, and you're thinking, oh, that was too short. You should do that again. It's no wonder people like that. But that was really incredible. And then we moved to New York. We found a place. It was a complete dump and in a completely terrible neighborhood. And when we built it up, the whole neighborhood changed. And over the past 38 years that we lived there. But we
When we were there, like 1985, which was around the time that we conceived of the chapel project, Tony Robbins came to town and did a firewalking experience. And so turning your...
right in the midtown, right in the
Yeah.
middle of, like 8th Avenue or something, we walked on fire.
fear to courage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his principle was, if you can do this, if you can walk on fire, can you get a New York gallery? Can you lose 10 pounds? Can you give up smoking? What can you not do if you can walk on fire? So we took on these challenges to bolster and pique our courage. And during COVID, when we became very ill, long-term COVID, we decided to take on the cold plunge, because
Naturally.
we're not just going to take this sitting down. No,
No way.
we're going to get better, and we did, and we have been, and we've been every day for the last 6 or 7 months in the freezing cold. Let me tell you, it's healing. It has healed me of things that I didn't know that I could ever be healed from.
Well, yeah, I mean, it expands your capacity of what you think you're capable of.
It's a little bit of shock therapy every day.
Low key. Yeah.
Yeah. It's worth it, I'm telling
But
you.
you got to participate, and I think that's the cool driving force behind CoSM is, creativity as a spiritual practice. Like, it takes two to tango, you and God. You have to show up and participate and be ready for that and to connect with people, be vulnerable with people, and learn about how you want to grow. And that takes a lot of courage, and I just love that CoSM has been that space for that. I mean, taking the painting intensive with you two in 2015 was a lot of courage because
Why was that? Why did that take courage?
it was an honor to be accepted into that program, but I was, a young college student surrounded by master painters, and it totally taught me about faith, and you two, kind of in one of the sessions, you sort of broke down the sort of the structure of a prayer, or at least how you two sort of approach it. And it was like, give thanks, expose the fact that you're a work in progress, and then ask for help, more or less, as what I got as a takeaway. And that was such a breakthrough to be like, whoa, I can't believe I'm here. I need to learn so much more, and give me the strength to move forward and grow as an artist. And that class changed my life. Brian Zickfoos is in the audience, was with me for that class. Perry was in that class with me, and it was
no
lifelong
kidding.
friendships that
Wow.
occurred. So yeah, participation is such a key player in embracing courage. And so I'm really grateful for everybody who's here tonight and for everyone tuning in. We did the blessings and declarations as a way of participation, which we'll get into next now. But
Yes, yes. Each month, we are grateful to friends from all over the world who send blessings and declarations to be a part of the full moon ceremony. And you, every one of you out there and in here, are invited to send us your blessings, your declarations, an intention for the coming month, or a memorial for a loved one to be included in this program, in the full moon program. Now, Alexa collects and assembles all the blessings and declarations on a scroll for us. Here's the scroll to read, and we read them all, and then we send them all along with our prayers to the heavens in flames. So, what do you got there, Alex?
Here's the scroll, and we'll read you a few. Dakota from Arizona makes a declaration. I will move through this life, this journey, with clairvoyance, awareness, and love.
Govi from Barcelona sends a blessing. I embrace community and self-connection to expand truth for everybody.
Alistair from the United Kingdom sends a blessing. Blessings to everyone who has the courage to go beyond, to create new life, and help save the planet.
Elaine from Washington sends a declaration. I embrace the challenges ahead. I will walk with courage and grace. May this journey be blessed. And Alexa,
what's up?
did you get a few more coming in at us while we were
got-
having this program?
We got a trickle in. I'll read a couple.
Okay.
Let's see. We have Fabienne from Germany with a blessing. Since my awakening through plant medicine, I realized that God is the one looking out of my eyes, out of everyone's eyes. The greatest gift is remembering life's preciousness and its ever-changing eternal nature. For we flow with life to live in love. Never ever forget that you're divine. Never, not even in the supermarket. Namaste. I'll read two more. We have Cassie from Texas with a blessing. Short and sweet. May we all remember this life is a blessing. And Delvin from British Columbia with a blessing for Entheon. May Entheon be a lighthouse uplifting artists all over the world to rise up to help lead the way into a more creative and caring culture. Thank you, everybody, for sending yours in.
Thank you, Alexa.
Wow. Well, so I'm going to send all these blessings and declarations up to the heavens in flames, and may they all be fulfilled.
Amen. Tonight, We may be thinking of loved ones, maybe even ourselves, who might be suffering distress in body or mind. Every CoSM full moon, we take a few moments to turn inside and hold in our heart those who might benefit from a healing prayer. To strengthen this blessing, recall the name of your loved one as we pray.
Great Spirit, thank you for blessing us with this day and for our precious body and soul. We feel the light of Spirit shining in our hearts. And as we breathe, a glow expands to surround us like a luminous sphere.
The brightness in our hearts magnifies as we join together in a gleaming web with countless others around the world, a luminous net of beings from the superabundance of your combined energy field. We envision rays of healing light surrounding and protecting us, our friends and family.
May the light shine on all who need healing. May Spirit renew each soul with creative power to rebuild stronger and weave peace and harmony across the earth. May the water, air, fire, and earth be purified, and the web of life be strong and resilient. Amen. Well, some who are with us may be grieving the loss of a family member or friend. We send our deep condolences to all those who are in mourning. We acknowledge the sacred space of sorrow and compassion that we carry for all those suffering on our planet. Remembering the brevity of life, we appreciate the beauty of every precious day.
Almighty Spirit, we remember the souls of beloved ones who have passed on. Cherishing them in our heart, they remain close. To evoke their memory, recall their names as we reflect together for a moment in silent prayer, sending a wave of love from our being to theirs.
May their memory be a blessing.
I really appreciate that we have that in our program.
I know. I do too. I do think of all the people that, need healing and ourselves. And I do think of all the people that have been so instrumental in our lives that have passed. And it's so wonderful to bring their spirits into this space.
Oh, yeah. And to just, create a safe container for people to feel emotion, maybe grieve a little, call in the healing that they need or call in the healing that they want to offer to somebody, even if that's their enemy. It really is great that we do that. And I'm grateful that we facilitate that for this program.
Well, it's good to remember to love everyone.
Yeah.
Enemies are not necessary.
Yeah.
People are just doing the best they can.
Yeah.
I'm with that.
Me too. We're doing the best we can.
Exactly. Everyone is really doing the best they can, even if they're transgressive or whatever they do. Forgive everyone.
Yeah.
If for only your own best interest, forgive everyone, because it doesn't help you to hold a grudge. It's ungodly.
Yeah.
And to forgive is godly.
Hmm.
So we forgive everyone.
Yeah. And we move forward. We put our best foot forward, and that's kind of what we're doing, gearing up for our first in-person full moon ceremony coming up, like you said, June 3rd. And we're really excited about that. And if you are like, I need to be there, I need to be front row, well, I strongly encourage you to right after this program, or even right now, Katie's about to put the link in the chat to sign up and become a member, because members will be the first to hear about opening announcements, and they will also get priority registration for our June 3rd full moon. We're going to have a limited capacity, and we can feel the love wave coming of friends, and we're excited to continue bringing back events and workshops, but this will be the first of many, and members will receive news first and get first access. So expect some updates from us soon. This is all I have for you right now, but get excited because we're coming. And until then, members, we love you. Future members, we love you too. You're all invited to join us for our virtual members art church, which happens on the new moon. The next one is March 21st, an evening of communal art making from the comfort of your own studio. Come on in. We have a playlist of music that Alex and Allyson put together. They read some poetry, and we reflect on the theme of the month. We're going to continue reflections on courage, March 21st. And then you have a chance to share. And after the program, you can hop on to CoSM Members Circle, which is our mighty network and our virtual space for members to post and communicate together. And there's also a sort of news feed for people who are not members yet, but kind of want to see what we're all about. So you can check out our mighty network and also be a viewer of our art church. All of that and more is available on cosm.org/membership. So go check that out. We appreciate you guys and gals and all so much for being with us. We hope that you liked this program, maybe gave us a little thumbs up. If you haven't already, we'd love thumbs up. And share this video with your friends. Tell us what you think in the comments. What would you like for us to talk about in the months ahead? April, as always, is liberation, which is a fabulous theme after courage into liberation. That feels good.
You've got both Passover, you have Easter, you have thoughts of liberation.
Bicycle Day.
Bicycle Day.
Talking liberation.
Talk about
here.
liberation and courage. That man rode a bicycle on the way home and not knowing what was happening. But we're really excited to continue to do our best to offer some cool programs for you guys. So learn more about our project by visiting cosm.org. And we love you. And I'm going to pass it off to you two to close out the program.
Thank you, Alexa.
Happy full
Thank
moon.
you. Happy full moon. Dedication to love. From the core of our hearts, we dedicate ourselves to the complete and full expression of love in all our activities and in all our relationships.
Love is the soul's medicine, a refuge in our hearts, protecting us from utter despair. Finding compassion in the eyes of the beloved and the stranger gives us the courage to endure.
May love sensitize us with care and wisdom. May love help heal the sickness and wounds of life. May love enable us to forgive and accept ourselves.
May love enable us to forgive and accept each other. May love help us overcome our cruelty and bitterness, our greed and jealousy, our ignorance and delusion.
May love rule our hearts and minds, directing us to reach out, doing our best to benefit others, to heal suffering, to give gifts, to create beauty in the infinite network that is our world.
A heart of loving kindness pours creative grace into the world to alleviate pain and mend the heart net. To the healing art of love, we dedicate ourselves.
May any merit generated by this gathering be offered to the benefit and liberation of all beings.
Happy
full moon.
Ow, ow.